Hey, welcome to Film Club, where I am talking about films that I like, some of my favorite films. We've actually started in the 1920s. We're all the way up to the 1970s at this point. 1970s have proved to be an extremely intensive batch of movies that have taken up two sides of this. And it's when I was able to first start watching kind of adult content movies and having access to seeing them on the big screen. So first I'd like to, since we're in the 70s, I'm going to recommend some music from the actual 70s. It's not going to be 70s. It's not going to be disco or punk rock, which came to fore in the 1970s. And the music that I'm going to recommend is by Terje Rypdal. And he was a great Norwegian guitar player and still is, although he's more or less semi-retired at this point. I think he's in his late 70s or early 80s. So he is one of my personal influences. This is a record called After the Rain. He plays most of the instruments on here, but he is primarily a guitar player. And this record came out in 1976, which is actually the year I'm going to start talking about movies here. And it's on ECM Records, which is known for its great atmospheric and pristine production, mainly usually done by Manfred Eicher, and it was a German record label. So anyway, that's my literary recommendation also, which is not from the 1970s, but it is more or less a new book. I think it came out last year. It's called The Fourth Turning is Here, and it's by a man named Neil Howe, who was one of the two authors, Howe and Strauss, I think, who wrote the book called The Fourth Turning, which was, when did that come out? Fourth Turning came out in 1997. So this is his kind of update on it. And it says, what the seasons of history tell us about how and when this crisis will end. So this is absolutely a very interesting book. Was fortunate enough to have this in my local library. And a quick blurb on the inside says, the visionary behind the best-selling phenomenon, The Fourth Turning, once again looks to America's past to predict our future in this startling and hopeful prophecy for how our present era of national crisis will resolve over the next decade and what our lives will look like once it has. So this is a really cool book. I recommend that you guys check it out if you have the time. There might be like an audio book of this at this point because it is basically a bestseller. So if any of you guys are out there, you can jump in and say hi. If you're not, I'm going to just jump into the movies anyway. So we left off with Salo, which was Pasolini's crazy, crazy film about an adaptation of the 120 Days of Sodom by the infamous Marquis de Sade. I'm not going to go into that again, but I kind of covered it more or less in depth in part 7 of this series. So, hey Vince, good to see you. And was just mentioning, I don't know if you heard what I was just mentioning. I was talking about The Fourth Turning by Neil Howe and also recommending After the Rain by Terje Rypdal, the Norwegian guitar player. So you might want to check those out if you're interested. Hello to everybody else who's out there. Some of you guys might be driving. I realize this is like a rush hour time, but I'm just going to jump into it. And I'm going to pick up in 1976 also with a Fellini film, and that is none other than Casanova by Fellini. And it's also technically called Fellini's Casanova. So no ego there whatsoever. However, Fellini did have the talent to back up naming a film after himself. So I'm not sure if he did this a number of times in the 70s. Maybe there's Fellini's Roma, Fellini's Satyricon, or whatever, but this stars the legendary and incredible actor Donald Sutherland playing Casanova. And for those of you who don't know, we're just familiar with Casanova from the Heath Ledger film. This is a completely different take on it. And I think for some reason, this wasn't able to get into the Criterion Fellini box, which has the majority of Fellini's movies, except for maybe 2 or 3, I think. City of Women's not in there. Casanova's not in there. I'm wondering about Ginger and Fred. But anyway, this is amazing. This is filled with incredible sets, incredible costumes, has Donald Sutherland. You have to be a little bit, you have to ignore the kind of dubbing a little bit or decide if you want to have the majority in Italian being dubbed or the majority in English with some dubbed Italian. It's very sort of awkward. The Italians were very kind of fast and loose with dubbing, and they just kind of had an attitude of what's all this concern about having the voices line up with the movie. It's like, as long as the voice is happening and you can see the visuals, that's all that's important. So I'll just read the blurb on the back of this here, which is in fact a Blu-ray from a new restoration. I think this would probably benefit from, it says it's a 4K, but this is not a 4K disc, but it looks spectacular. They did an amazing job on this. And the story of Casanova is a bittersweet story and kind of a story of aging out, of being a rambunctious youth, obsessed with the opposite sex or the same sex, whatever sex you're obsessed with, or no sex at all. I don't know. I'm not making any opinions about that. But the back of this says the incomparable Federico Fellini directs this visually stunning portrait of Casanova, the infamous Italian womanizer, adventurer, author, and libertine. In a remarkable performance, Donald Sutherland portrays the great seducer not as an amorous anomaly, but an everyday man living in extraordinary times. Featuring dazzling European settings, although mainly filmed in Rome, and an unforgettable musical score by Nina Rota. Absolutely incredible musical score in this one. Blah, blah, blah. Anyway, this is really cool. It's a pretty long movie. It's 154 minutes, came out in 1976. I'm not sure if I saw it initially when it came out. I think maybe I saw it a couple of years later in repertory cinema, and it was absolutely an amazing watch. And of course, this is one of those movies that you could only see on kind of terrible pan and scan VHS videotapes. I'm not even sure this even got a DVD release, but here it is. It's on Blu-ray. The great Kino Lorber put this out. I believe it's still available, and it looks amazing. So if you have an ability to rent this or purchase it, if you are a library type of person, this is absolutely a spectacular film, a great one. It's got pathos, it has sadness, it has immense humor, it's got absolute perversity, and it's a really great film. And ultimately kind of sad the way Casanova ends up. I'm not going to give away the ending, but it's interesting and great and fabulous, fabulous watch. Next, I have The Tenant by Roman Polanski. This is a 4K disc. I think it came out 1 or 2 years ago, maybe. If you haven't seen this movie, this is a really fantastic Polanski movie. All of his movies are great. He moves into an apartment in Paris, and slowly kind of starts assuming the personality of the previous tenant that lived in the apartment. So it's kind of a ghost story in a way, and just kind of a story of a descent into madness. And I think he made this one maybe right after Chinatown, which of course he made after Rosemary's Baby, I think. So he was on a run of making some really incredible films. And if you haven't seen this one, this is a wild one and absolutely, uh, absolutely just worth watching. And if you're a fan of Polanski, I mean, you've got to watch this one. And it also has cinematography by Sven Nykvist, who was the cinematographer for Bergman. So this looks great. And I think Sven Nykvist also directed one film called The Ox, which is kind of a difficult film to see, but it's a really cool film. And it is a film that is crying out for restoration and redistribution. So anybody who's out there listening to this, please put out The Ox, because The Ox is something that needs to be seen. Next, we have Killing of a Chinese Bookie. And this is a John Cassavetes film. And I'll read you the synopsis on the back here. Cassavetes engages with film noir in his own inimitable style. Ben Gazzara brilliantly portrays a gentleman's club owner, Cosmo Vitelli, desperately committed to maintaining a facade of suave gentility despite the seediness of his environment and his own unhealthy appetites. When he runs afoul of loan sharks, Cosmo must carry out a terrible crime or lose his way of life. And that's a really great, succinct synopsis of it. This is a fantastic movie, and Ben Gazzara is great. He was great in absolutely everything he was in. He might most famously be known to younger actors as the porn king in Big Lebowski. I think Jackie Treehorn is his name, but he more or less plays the same kind of character, Cosmo Vitelli, in the Big Lebowski. He basically is kind of doing, it's almost kind of a cameo role, but he plays more or less the same type of character. And interestingly, I think in the South Park, no, it's not the South Park movie, but there's some kind of earlier South Park episode. It's from quite a while ago, where they go to, there's something about the land of imagination, as I remember it. Maybe one of you guys can remind me of that. But all of the characters end up in the land of imagination. And it's basically a place where all kinds of movie characters and animation characters come to life, and they live in the land of imagination. But there's a man in a balloon with a top hat who sings a song about the land of imagination. And that character is like the MC in The Killing of a Chinese Bookie. And when I saw that, I wasn't really a completely religious South Park watcher, but a friend of mine knew that I liked this film and told me, oh, you just have to take a look at this Land of Imagination South Park episode. I think it's a 2-part episode where the world gets destroyed at the end or something. And my jaw dropped when I saw the whole Land of Imagination thing and just went, okay, that kind of bumped South Park up quite a few notches, because I just went, wow, this movie is on their radar somehow. And it's just a really cool thing that they threw in there. And of course, they're doing that all the time, throwing in really subtle things for those of us who like alternative viewpoints, alternative films, things that are under the radar. Obviously, they operate on an under the radar thing. Also, although these days they're not quite as under the radar that I hope that they will revisit. So, Sadcore, hey, hello, John. And yeah, no problem. I mean, they're all here if you go to my channel here, you can just click on the live button, and I think that they're all archived there. Or else I think I've got a film club playlist at this point where they all are. But okay, it's good. Okay, it's good to see you. Sayonara. Hope you're doing good. Next film is a film from 1976. I don't actually own this film, but I've thought about it. I did own a VHS of this film, and I don't think I ever owned a DVD of it for some reason, because basically I had this VHS and I watched it so many times that I virtually had the movie memorized. And then I also had a cool copy of the soundtrack, which I understand has become fairly collectible. And that movie is none other than Taxi Driver by Martin Scorsese. And this was the movie that he made after Mean Streets, I believe. And of course, Taxi Driver is an incredibly iconic film at this point, filled with iconic quotes and a really classic performance by Robert De Niro as Travis Bickle, the AWOL vet. He's not actually AWOL. I'm using AWOL in the terms that he's just kind of gone off the rails. And it's never really explained. There's no kind of backstory to him other than just really dribs and drabs that we learn as we go through the film. We figure out that he's been a vet. We don't know where he's been, what happened to him, but obviously things have gone wrong. And now he's just a humble yellow cab driver in New York City in the mid 70s, when New York is at its most just kind of declined and decrepit before New York City got cleaned up. And Martin Scorsese was astute enough to just shoot in New York in all of its kind of rundown glory. The writer of Taxi Driver is somebody called Paul Schrader, who will be the writer of another film I will talk about later. And I haven't read a whole bunch about Schrader's process behind creating Taxi Driver. I know there's a lot of material out there, and it's just one of those things that I haven't gotten to, even though I am a huge fan of film, obviously. He's on my list to kind of do a deep dive about, because he's made a couple of other things that I really like as well. I think he made the Mishima film, and he possibly directed that one, famous film about Yukio Mishima, who famously led an ultra-right contingent in the 1960s in Japan that was talking about bringing back the emperor, or having the emperor resume his role as being all-powerful, and just kind of bringing up ideation of Japanese militarism and presenting that as a viable alternative to what he saw as being the corruption of the current state of Japan in the 1970s. Anyway, that's a little bit of a diversion on that. But Taxi Driver is really a great film. You can watch it through your entire life. Particularly resonated with me in my 20s and 30s. And when I was living with Lori Black, we watched Taxi Driver a lot. Whenever it showed up at the cinema, we'd go and see it, usually at places like the Fox Venice or the New Art. If Taxi Driver popped up, we were always down there. And we knew all the lines, and they just continued to make us laugh. And it's got people like Albert Brooks in it. And also, I'm trying to think of the woman who plays the model. This is a little embarrassing that I can't remember her. Sybil Shepherd. I think it was only her second film after Last Picture Show. She does a perfectly great job as just being somewhat of an insular young woman who is working for a political campaign that Travis Bickle gets obsessed with, and it just doesn't work out because he just doesn't have the skills to be able to really just date somebody normally. He's just on their first date, he takes her to a porn film. So, and he's just going, hey, people go to the movies. I thought this was just a movie that people go to. What's the matter? What did I? He's really kind of autistic and just has zero skills. And it's really the character of Travis Bickle, while kind of a quintessential early vigilante that has kind of gone wrong, is just basically looking for a reason to be a vigilante. He has no idea why. Just has no social skills. I mean, even with people who are allegedly his friends, they're still just kind of looking at him going, man, there's, something going on with you. We don't know what it is, but hey, you're a nice guy. You're all right, right? I mean, you're good, right? And he's just kind of going, I don't know. What is that? What is good? So no matter who tries to have a conversation with him, it just goes sideways instantly, and there's misinterpretation, and he can't find any points of connection with anybody, really. And so really this is a film about complete alienation of the individual, and possibly as a result of going through the process of being in the military and or combat, and the results of that. And that will all show up in a later film, also written by Paul Schrader, that I'll talk about momentarily. But Taxi Driver is great. Has Harvey Keitel is also fantastic in this film, especially after seeing him in Mean Streets. Mean Streets is such a good film. I spoke about this earlier. It's another one of these great Scorsese ensemble acting exercises. Taxi Driver is not so much an ensemble piece because it's really more kind of like a loner thing. I would say that it has more in touch with maybe King of Comedy or Raging Bull. Raging Bull is fairly ensemble driven, but a lot of the scenes are just Jake LaMotta with another person hashing stuff out. But De Niro's fantastic. Scorsese's great. The writing's great. Harvey Keitel as Sport, the kind of loathsome pimp character, is fantastic. And his lines are borderline comedy. He's like, hey, get out of here. Get back to your tribe. He's got this great, he just uses his New York accent to the fullest. And it also has a very young Jodie Foster. And I think Jodie Foster is even possibly 12 or 13 in this film. And she does a really incredible job as basically playing a 13-year-old prostitute. And this film could not be made today. And, I can't really comment about that. I mean, it works within the milieu of what the film is doing. And Jodie Foster is just kind of like, hey, I'm just doing this for kicks. And, I left home because I didn't like my parents. And so now I'm doing this. And, Sport is a great guy, and he's really nice, and he buys me things, and, everything's okay. And I guess a lot of the dialogue between Jodie Foster and Robert De Niro was improvised. There's a specific scene where he kind of goes, hey, come on, let me buy you a sandwich or a cup of coffee or something. And they go out and they eat in this diner. And it's such a great scene because they're both such, obviously Jodie Foster is young, but De Niro is really excellent. And you can see that he possibly could have had a totally alternate path as a comedian, because he really has a great sense of humor, great sense of timing. And of course, the end is what it is. If you haven't seen Taxi Driver, you have to watch it. It's one of the film classics. It's a film classic. And interestingly enough, I think in 1976 when it came out, and they had the Oscars in 1977, Taxi Driver was nominated for, I think it was the first movie that Scorsese got a bunch of nominations for. I believe it was nominated for Best Actor for De Niro, maybe possibly Best Supporting Actor, Harvey Keitel, Best Screenplay, Best Director, Best Picture. Didn't win anything. The movie that won everything that year was Rocky. Rocky won everything. And Rocky's okay. I mean, it's, people either love it or they hate it. I think it's all right. I mean, it's a rah-rah sports movie, of course. And Raging Bull, of course, is like the antithesis of Rocky. But yeah, and actually, oddly enough, I think 1977 was the year that I did actually go to the Oscars with Lori Black, because of course her mom was Shirley Temple Black. So she was a member of the Academy, got tickets every year, never went. So she told Lori, she goes, "Hey, you want to use my tickets?" So Lori and I and another friend went to the Oscars. I'm trying to remember if it was 77 or 78. If I had my producer here, I could look it up and find that out. But anyway, I distinctly remember, both Lori and I distinctly remember watching the Oscars or something and just going, what? Rocky won everything and Taxi Driver didn't win anything. But that's the way the Oscars work. I mean, it's more or less kind of a popularity contest amongst members of the Academy, which is slightly depressing in a way, because you would think that the people who are making these things would know what the best things are. But I've spoken about this a little bit before. Stanley Kubrick never won an Oscar. So anyway, that's not really worth talking about. So Taxi Driver, awesome film, belongs in the pantheon of great films. Next, we have The Omen. And The Omen is really a great film. And I can't remember exactly who directed The Omen, but perhaps it was Richard Donner, I think. The Omen is great. It has a fantastic score by Jerry Goldsmith, who did the score for Planet of the Apes and just a ton of other scores. Oh, incidentally, I should mention about Taxi Driver. The man who wrote the score for that was Bernard Herrmann. And I think it was even the last score that Bernard Herrmann wrote. Of course, he wrote all those amazing Hitchcock scores. So the score for Taxi Driver is a beautiful score. It's highly evocative, and it's a fantastic score. Anyway, The Omen is great. Gregory Peck, Lee Remick, David Warner, completely famous by this point. It's been rebooted, I don't know, maybe once with sequels also. But it's the original child possessed by demon film, really fantastic. And still a great watch, hasn't aged at all. And all of the actors are great, and they're just all in on playing it as straight as possible. And that's one of the things that makes it great. And really a chilling film. And I love the score to it. Really good Jerry Goldsmith score. And of course, he's done the scores for quite a few films that I've talked about in here. But iconic film composer. And The Omen is fantastic. I really don't, probably everybody has seen it by now, but this is one of those films also that if you can see it in a movie theater, it makes a huge difference to actually watch it in a movie theater. It's very, involving and immersive and super good, like a lot of these films are, because this is before home video was a thing. So these were made for cinemas, and that's the place to go and see them. Also in 1976, the film Network came out. And Network is a really, really great satire about television networks. And William Holden plays the head of a network that has its ratings tanking, and Faye Dunaway plays a hotshot woman who's brought in to boost ratings. I'm not going to say how they boost ratings, but this is an absolutely incredible film. It has Peter Finch in it as a news anchor who starts losing contact with reality. It's got Ned Beatty as the head of a corporation that buys the network and puts Faye Dunaway in place to make things better. And it's really a fantastic film, holds up completely, especially in these days of what legacy media is doing. And that especially includes the news departments of legacy media, who appear to have just adopted a parallel reality scenario for a lot of things, which is sad but interesting and can be entertaining also. So watching Peter Finch as the news anchor Norman Beale go off the rails in this film is really something. And I'm not sure if he actually won an Academy Award for it, but he was certainly, this is one of those films that got nominated for a basket load of Academy Awards. I'm not sure how many it won exactly, but Network is a great film. And from what I understand, there is a restoration of it coming out sometime next year by Criterion. So that's going to probably be on my wish list. And since I've never owned that movie, I probably will pick up that version of it. Next, I have Opening Night, which is another Cassavetes film. This one right here. These ones, this one and Killing of a Chinese Bookie, are out of a Cassavetes box set, which is really great. All the films in it are really, really fantastic. Woman Under the Influence is in it, Chinese Bookie, this one, and a couple of other ones. But this has the great Gina Rowlands in it, who was also married to Cassavetes. And the synopsis of this is, while in the middle of rehearsals for her latest play, Broadway actor Myrtle Gordon witnesses the accidental death of an adoring young fan, which begins to confront the chaos of her own life. So that's another movie. Seems like the 70s had a lot of movies about loners going off the rails. And this is another one like this, but it's actually a Broadway actor that is going off the rails. John Cassavetes lays bare the drama of a performer who, at great personal cost, makes a part her own and functions as a metaphor for the director's singular, wrenched from the heart creative method. That's it in a nutshell. Whoever writes the synopsis for these Criterion editions does a great job. Gina Rowlands is awesome. Not a light and fluffy film, as most Cassavetes films are not, but absolutely a great watch if you want to see superlative filmmaking, fantastic directing, great writing, and really good actors that make you believe what they're doing. You just forget you're watching actors. So that's really cool, which is what I want from movies. Next is, okay, we're back in Sam Peckinpah land with Cross of Iron. And this is Sam Peckinpah's World War II film. And I did get to see this film when it came out. I actually saw it with a friend of mine. What were we doing? I think we were in Europe on a summer vacation. And we saw this in Amsterdam on a gigantic screen. We were both kind of shell shocked after we came out of it, and we just went, wow, that was absolutely insane. And it's not what you would think it was. Sam Peckinpah makes a World War II movie. It's not going to be, okay, the Americans versus the Germans and everything turns out okay. No, it's the Germans versus the Russians. It's the Germans on the Eastern Front, and their time's up. And the Russians are kind of handing their asses to them. And it's got James Coburn, Maximilian Schell, James Mason, again, David Warner. He's in a lot of great 70s movies. And this is really an amazing film. This is one of Sam Peckinpah's best, which is saying something. I don't think it was very popular in particular, maybe because it was the Germans against the Russians. But everybody's great in it. The direction is great. Of course, battle scenes are amazing. The writing is really good, and just the premise of the film is really good. Cross of Iron is a riveting and violent tale of men on the front lines of battle, and the only war film directed by master filmmaker Sam Peckinpah. Maybe Major Dundee. Well, Major Dundee might be considered a war film about settling the West, maybe, but I guess it's post-Civil War. But yeah, it's certainly the only World War II movie made by Sam Peckinpah. Set in 1943, this explosive epic centers on Corporal Steiner, I think based on a real person, an accomplished but war-weary combat veteran leading a group of German soldiers on the Russian front. Steiner's authority comes under attack when Major Stansky, Maximilian Schell, takes over command of the troops. Stransky has only one goal in mind: to win the coveted Iron Cross, Germany's highest medal, at any cost. So that's it in a nutshell. Really just a mind-blowing film. The cynicism of the upper command of war, sending people to their deaths, that type of thing. And really good. Coburn is great, perfectly believable as a German officer. I don't even think he's an officer. He's like a sergeant or a corporal or something like that. Maximilian Schell, absolutely great as the kind of Prussian aristocrat officer. And James Mason, absolutely fantastic as both of their superior. And this is a really good one. If you haven't seen this one, they don't make war movies like this anymore, that's for sure. Moving into 1977 now. And the first movie I have for 1977 is Eraserhead. And it's amazing that David Lynch was making films back then. I think he actually made most of this film in 75 and 76. It seemed to take him according to the extras on here and stuff, it took him a really long time to make this one. And he made like 6 short films before this, which are included here, which are cool little films. 6 Men Getting Sick in 1967, The Alphabet in 68, The Grandmother 70, The Amputee version 1 and version 2 in 74, Premonitions Following an Evil Deed in 1995. That's a later one. But this is the Criterion version. This Eraserhead is a great film. I'm always assuming that everybody's seen these David Lynch films and Sam Peckinpah films, but I do have an extremely vivid memory of the first time I saw this film, because it was in Los Angeles, and I think it was at a movie theater on Ventura Boulevard, possibly called the Rialto, if I'm remembering. And that movie theater would do Rocky Horror Picture Show midnight screenings, El Topo midnight screenings. And they would do special screenings where directors would bring in films that didn't have distribution yet, and they would just show the film and you could talk to them. And one of the films that was brought in was Eraserhead. And I remember Lori Black and I were going to Cal Arts at the time. We lived up in Newhall, and we saw in the LA Weekly that David Lynch was going to be showing Eraserhead. And the LA Weekly had this glowing review about it. I don't think this film had any distribution at that point, and said that David Lynch was going to be talking about the film and answering questions about it. And so everybody should go and see it. So reading about it, it sounded great. And we decided to make the trip down there. I think it was like about 35 miles down to the valley, 30 miles from Newhall down to Studio City or whatever. And we went in there and we watched Eraserhead. We'd never seen anything like it. Before the film screened, David Lynch said, "Well, I've been working on this film for a while, and I hope you like it. And okay, let's show the film." He was just so nerdy and weird. And of course, we watched Eraserhead. We were blown away by it. We were just going, okay, there was no point of reference for this film whatsoever, other than possibly German Expressionism from the 1920s or something. We'd never seen anything about it, anything remotely like it. And so afterwards, he just answered questions. Of course, most of the questions were like, what was the baby? What happened to the baby? Where did you get it from? And he just said, "Well, I'm not answering any questions about the baby." And that was just it. He just wouldn't do it. And he spoke about, they were going, "Where did you make it?" And he's going, "Well, I made it about 10 miles over that way. And we had a little compound that we made it in." And it was just like talking to your neighbor or something. It was really cool. I didn't ask him a question. I don't think Lori did either. We couldn't really think of anything to ask him because the film was kind of so stunning and weird. Everything about it was really just had the feeling of somebody completely tuned into an alien radio station. And the film still holds up. Everything about it has an alien feeling about it, but at the same time, there's a weird sort of familiarity about it, just in the relationships people have with each other. And basically, it's about a guy named Henry trying to get a date or something. It's not even really that. What do they say on the back here? A dream of dark and troubling things. I didn't even really think it was that dark. I just thought it was weird and inexplicable and more kind of related to Louis Brunel and, you know, and Murnau and people like that than anything else. With its mesmerizing black and white photography, evocative sound design, and unforgettably enigmatic performance by Jack Nance, this visionary nocturnal odyssey continues to haunt American cinema like no other film. So they don't even have a synopsis for it. They're just going, it's dark, it's weird, it's unforgettable. But I would just say that it's about a man trying to get a date. You know? So I don't know. See what you think about it. I'm assuming everybody's seen Eraserhead once again. If you haven't, I insist. Watch Eraserhead. Hey, Felix. Felix says Mark has got to be one of the coolest rock stars out there who would discuss all the cool films of the past with everybody. Thanks a lot, Mark. I enjoy these reviews and discussions. Thanks, Felix. Rock star is not something I would really subscribe to. I mean, that's for other people to make their own decisions about. For me, it's people like Freddie Mercury. So I don't really put myself in that ballpark. But I appreciate you and thank you for the compliment. I will take that as graciously as I can. Next, we're moving on to, we're still in 1977, and it's House. And this is probably, while we're in the realm of weird with Eraserhead, these are probably the two weirder, Eraserhead and House have got to be the two weirder movies of the 1970s. I can't think of two movies that are weirder. Possibly El Topo and The Holy Mountain. They might be weirder. I mean, it's not a weird contest. As strange, certainly. They're in the basket of strange that's out there. I saw this on TCM on Halloween. What? Yeah, Eraserhead? Yes. Great. And of course, you should try and rent it if you can, because you get just a ton of extras that are really cool. And David Lynch's conversations or extras are just, they're fantastic because he's in the realm of Werner Herzog. I mean, I could just listen to Werner Herzog, I mean, talk about people parking their cars or something, because just his observational talent is off the scale. Anyway, if you haven't heard of House, this is a fantastic and really strange film. The synopsis is how to describe Nobuhiko Obayashi's indescribable 1977 movie House. Psychedelic ghost tale, stream of consciousness bedtime story, episode of Scooby-Doo is directed by Mario Bava. That's a nice one. Any of the above will do. About this hallucinatory head trip about a schoolgirl who travels with 6 classmates to visit her ailing aunt's creaky country home and comes face to face with evil spirits, a demonic house cat, a bloodthirsty piano, and other ghoulish visions realized by Obayashi via Matt's animation and collage effects. Equally absurd and nightmarish, House might have been beamed to Earth by some other planet. Yeah, I mean, that's like Eraserhead also, and El Topo, etc. Oh, they played House on TCM on Halloween. Great. Yeah, I mean, TCM is another great source for watching stuff like this. They must have some kind of an arrangement with Criterion, because I noticed that they have a lot of stuff on there, which is fantastic. It's great that this stuff is made available for everybody to watch. Let's see. Oh, I have one film that I left out of 1976. For some reason it wasn't in the pile. That is this film, Matrice. It is a French film by Babette Schroeder, who made the great film about Idi Amin called Idi Amin Dada, where he goes to Uganda and hangs out with Idi Amin, and it's just mind-blowing film. If you don't know who Idi Amin was the dictator of Uganda, had all these fantasies about liberating the Golan Heights, and threw his political rivals literally into a lake filled with crocodiles. So Babette Schroeder made that film, Idi Amin Dada, which you have to watch. I mean, it's just amazing, the cabinet meeting that Idi Amin has, where each of his cabinet members have the exact same briefcase, and he's going, okay, today we discuss the incredible success of our country, don't we? And everybody's sitting there going, yes, yes we do. Yes we do. Our country is amazing. It's really good. So he directed this film, as well as a really great film with Jack Nicholson and Meryl Streep called Ironwood. If you haven't seen that film, one of Jack Nicholson's and also Meryl Streep's greatest performances, it's about homeless people in, I think, in Albany, New York in the 1930s. Amazing film. Also has Tom Waits in it. But This film kind of went off the radar. Ironwood, I'm talking about. And a lot of his films were so-called art films. And he also directed Barfly, the great film about Mickey Rourke and Faye Dunaway as down and outers in Hollywood. And Bukowski wrote a great book called Hollywood, all about making Barfly. That's a fantastic book to read. And Barfly is a great film. And this film is a great film. And the synopsis on the back of this is: a young provincial in search of adventure stumbles into the subterranean world of sadomasochism, where he's implicated in the burglary of a Paris apartment. The apartment's mistress runs a 2-floor operation, all respectability above and a dungeon of punishment seeking clients below. And it has Gerard Depardieu in it as the guy that stumbles into this lady's apartment and makes a huge mistake in doing so. And this is really cool. It's a kinky film, if you like kink, and who doesn't? Everybody likes a little bit of kink. This is a really cool film, full of surprises, and you can't tell where it's going to go and what happens with it. It says Barbette Schroeder's Matrice examines the line between fantasy and reality, decadence and deprivation, and the distance one will go for love. So if you've seen the film Secretary with Maggie Gyllenhaal, this is kind of the grown-up version of that film. And it's a better film than that one, although I like Secretary. It's kind of cool. It's got some cool stuff about it. Who else is in Secretary? What's his name? Can't remember. This is a neat one. Seek it out if it's in your library or wherever. If you have friends who have a kink collection. I don't know. Good one, though, from 1976. So the 70s had some cool stuff in it. Lots and lots of cool stuff. Obviously, I've spent 8 episodes talking about the 70s. So James Spader, thank you. Yes, so you must have seen it. And James Spader is good. He would pop up in good movies every once in a while. I think he was in kind of light and fluffy stuff, but then he would pop up in things like Secretary, and he'd pop up in, what am I thinking of? Crash, I think, right? So 1900. This is a Bernardo Bertolucci film. I think this might be the film that he made after Last Tango in Paris. This is a fantastic film, a real whopper of a film. It's, how long is it? It's amazingly long. Where's the timing of it? Can't find the timing of it. I think it's 3 hours, 3.5 hours maybe. There was an edited version that came out, and that was a whopper. That was like over 2 hours long. So this, I think maybe it was a television show originally, I'm not sure, but Robert De Niro, Gerard Depardieu, who I was just speaking about, Bernardo Bertolucci directed it, Vittorio Storaro, who did Deer Hunter, Apocalypse Now, Last Tango in Paris, one of the greatest cinematographers of all time. And this is about fascism in Italy. This kind of keys in with Salo a little bit. And it's about kind of where fascism goes to. I think it starts out in the year 1900. It's got a great scene with somebody dressed as the character Rigoletto, the great tragic hunchback figure in the opera by Verdi. It's got a guy with a lantern coming out of the forest going, Giuseppe Verdi is dead. That's the way the film starts in 1900. 1900 is an epic film of massive scope, power, and controversy. It is. It is both a vast history of 20th century Italy and an intimate portrait of two friends, both born on January 1st, 1900, son of a socialist peasant, farmer, Gerard Depardieu, and the son of a fascist landowner, Robert De Niro. Well, fascism didn't quite exist in 1900, so I think Robert De Niro's father is a landowner, and the landowners did veer towards early fascism just because they disagreed with the socialists taking everything away from them, or a lot of things they'd worked hard for. It's an extremely complex political situation. I just read this fantastic book about, I think I mentioned it when I was talking about Salo, this biography of Mussolini that is allegedly going to be a 3-part biography. And the first part has come out. It's called M. And if you're interested in history like I am, that is an amazing and incredible read, and really brings the entire thing to life in all of its just ridiculous complexity and infighting. And I think there's a mini series based on that book, which I would like to try to watch, but I think it's sealed behind some kind of BBC play window or some kind of thing. Anyway, the son of the peasant socialist and the son of the landowner pass through the upheavals of the modern world as their personal conflicts become an allegory of the political turmoil of the 20th century. It also has Burt Lancaster, Donald Sutherland, Sterling Hayden, and Dominique Sanda, and music by Ennio Morricone. And, so this is a 5-hour version. So the only version I ever saw was a 3-hour version in the movie theater. I think actually, once again, Lori Black and I went to see this at the movies, and we felt like we'd been living during this time. When we watched the movie, De Niro is great in this. I think, and this is one of those things kind of like Brando, where Brando made Last Tango in Paris and The Nightcomers and Godfather right in a row. De Niro made Taxi Driver, and then he made this. So I'm not sure what order this happened in. I believe that maybe he made this right before Taxi Driver. I don't know exactly. But this is an amazing watch. And if you've never seen this, you got to watch this. This is one of the epic films ever made, absolutely. And it's got great actors in it. The writing's superb. Cinematography is outrageously good. And of course, people like Donald Sutherland and Burt Lancaster, De Niro, and Gerard Depardieu. I mean, just outrageously good movie. I can't recommend this one enough. And these were the kind of movies that people would put their money behind putting into production in the 1970s. Really good. It's making me want to watch that one again when I can find the time. Okay, so let's see. After 1900, okay, a movie I don't actually own, but probably one of the best sports movies ever made. And I was mentioning as having a dislike for Rocky, and I'm not crazy about sports movies. I'm not really a huge fan of, say, Chariots of Fire, or I don't like those movies about the plucky underdog must face the competition to be able to triumph. I mean, it's just such an old, tired trope. There are movies that I like about figures within sports. I think there's a really great movie about the notorious baseball player Ty Cobb, who played ball for, I think, a Georgia team maybe in the 1920s. Ty Cobb was a notorious just bastard, and basically used to sharpen his spikes and then dive at people on the bases spikes first. I mean, he was just a notorious racist, bigot, awful person, one of the greatest people to ever play the game, and played a whole bunch of different positions amazingly good. Yeah, Bad News Bears. Bad News Bears. Okay, that's a pretty good one. Yeah. I mean, I like a little salt in my sports viewing, but yeah, Bad News Bears. Okay, that's a pretty good one, but it's not as good as the Ty Cobb movie, and I think it's just called Cobb, and it has uh, Tommy Lee Jones playing Ty Cobb, and I think it's actually an '80s movie, maybe. Anyway, never mind. But the movie I'm going to recommend is Slapshot. And it's a hockey movie from 1977, and it's got Paul Newman in it. And this is an older Paul Newman. So it's Paul Newman kind of, being kind of ground down and a little bit wizened and, just doesn't give a damn, Paul Newman. And it's really good. Um, and it's just about a failing hockey team. I mean, I know what I said about the plucky hockey team, but this is when they're like minor league hockey. So everybody has a job, who's playing on the hockey team, and the place where they all have their job is closing, and at the same time they're just getting beat like crazy by every single other um, minor league hockey team in the league. So it also has the great Strother Martin in it, one of my favorite actors, as I've mentioned before, favorite character actors, a Sam Peckinpah regular, as it were. And he plays I think he's the manager or the owner of the hockey. No, he's the manager of the hockey team, and Paul Newman is the coach of the hockey team. And Strother Martin realizes that the hockey team is they're failing miserably. And so he kind of does something where he acquires some players um, for the hockey team to make them kind of go out on a high note. And the guys that he hires are just straight up goons. All they do is they come on the ice, and they're basically these three brothers that look alike. And I think they're called the Hanson brothers. And they're literally just kind of, let's see, Struthers was funny in Grit with Tim Darby. That scene that was hilarious. True Grit. That's right. Yeah, absolutely. And so it's great what happens. They get these goons in, and the goons become kind of like mascots and also sort of assassins for any team that is playing them. And it's a great film. I forget who directed the film. It's all done with natural lighting, and it's fast and loose comedy. It's kind of broad comedy in a way. It's basically a film that's sort of fighting off depression. And yes, they are kind of plucky underdogs, but they're bastards. So you kind of want them to kind of screw up as many people as they can. And it's a really cool movie. And I'm not going to give away any of the major plot things, but they discover not all is correct and kosher with exactly who owns the hockey team. Paul Newman kind of goes on a search to find out who actually owns it, and he's taken aback when he finds out who does, and it kind of makes him double down on being more of a bastard. So Slapshot is an awesome film made in 1977, and if you haven't seen it, it's a great one, and I recommend watching it. Absolutely. Next film from 1977 is this film here, Rolling Thunder. And this film is the other film that I was talking about when I mentioned Paul Schrader. And right here on the cover, it says, another shattering experience from the author of Taxi Driver. So this is a great film, and it's related to Taxi Driver in that it's a vet coming home, although we really know that William Devane is a vet in this. In Taxi Driver, it's not even really alluded to. You just discover it basically by the production, by the way that everything's arranged. He gets to a point where he just starts wearing a military jacket that has his name on it, and he's adept with firearms, and he's shell shocked, but he never ever speaks about what happened to him. So in this film, right off the bat, we have somebody who is coming home, and this was around the time of the film Coming Home also, which was, I'm not exactly sure when that film was made, but it had Jane Fonda, I think Bruce Dern, and Jon Voight. And basically, Jane Fonda's married to somebody who's in Nam. He comes home. She's gotten involved with Jon Voight, I think, who's a disabled vet. And there's a triangulation there that's really poignant and good, just as a dramatic tool to push the movie forward. Coming Home is one of the better sort of Vietnam vet coming home movies. Actually, First Blood with Stallone is a really good one. And there were a few of these movies that were starting to come out into the mainstream at that point. None of these movies, of course, are going to be on the level of Hearts and Minds, that's not really a vet coming home movie, but it is just a movie about that Vietnam experience, which is just a must-watch film. This film does a different thing. It's a revenge drama, and really, I mean, just the synopsis on the back here. When Major Charles Rain, William Devane, he was in Marathon Man also, and Interstellar, comes home to San Antonio, Texas. He's given a hero's welcome. He and his friend John Volden, Tommy Lee Jones, have endured 8 years of physical and mental torture in a POW camp. Adjusting to his old life isn't going to be easy for Rain. His wife Janet has fallen in love with another man, and his son doesn't remember him. The publicity he receives as a returning hero has attracted the attention of a group of hoodlums. So that's it right there. Basically, they give him a silver dollar for every day of his captivity. He gets handed these. People see on TV that's what happened. That's what's happened, and they want those, and it just goes off the rails. This is really great filmmaking, shot on location in Texas, like right around San Antonio. So you get literally rippling heat. You get everybody looking slightly sticky. You get that great 70s film grain in there, and you just get this explosiveness that's happening that's just doesn't stop. This is a movie that just starts going like that and does not quit till the very end. So if you're in the mood for a real ride, Rolling Thunder is one, and of course written by the great Paul Schrader. It's a movie, when you've seen it, you never forget it. And obviously I own the movie. I've got to be in the mood to watch this one, because there's not a lot of comic relief in it. There is really, really, really dry humor coming out of William Devane and Tommy Lee Jones, but it's almost imperceptible. It's so wry. But a fantastic film, a great watch. Next, actually, I've got 3 movies left, and we're going to hit the very end of the 1970s. And the 70s were just stacked full of amazing films, and even so many that I haven't even managed to put some in my own collection. But this one, I remember seeing this one in a movie theater, loved it, thought it was preposterous and insane, but it's got Hollywood legends in it. Gregory Peck, Laurence Olivier, and James Mason, and it is Boys from Brazil. And this is a really just wild film bordering on science fiction. It's kind of one of those films There's sort of a subgenre of Nazi films about what if the Nazis did this? What if they had a base on the moon? What if there was one who was doing Frankenstein type experiments off in the forest? And this is one of those movies, except it's a whopper because it's got Laurence Olivier, Gregory Peck, and James Mason. And I just love the idea of these guys just being handed this script and going, seems reasonable. Okay, let's do this. It says this. And it's directed by Franklin Schaffner, of course, who's like old Hollywood director, maker of classic films. It says this terrifying thriller is based on Ira Levin's bestselling vehicle in which Dr. Joseph Mengele is alive and living in South America and gathers a group of former Nazis to work on a mysterious project. Well, they're not even former Nazis. I mean, they're still Nazis. That's the point. They're no way former Nazis. They're just like, we're Nazis. We're good with it, you know. And so it says Ezra Lieberman, Laurence Olivier, begins to unravel the conspiracy and discovers that Mengele has cloned 94 young Hitlers. Is it 94 or 34? Can't read it. 94 young Hitlers. So that's basically it. It's Gregory Peck as Joseph Mengele cloning Hitler. He's got a vial of Hitler's blood, and he's got a lab in South America. And James Mason is kind of his boss. He's sort of the supreme Nazi who wants to make sure the plan gets operated efficiently, and things start to go awry because Laurence Olivier gets wind of it. And this is one of Gregory Peck's, as schlocky as it is, and of kind of outrageous and ridiculous a concept that it is, borderline Nazi sci-fi stuff. They're not playing it for laughs. They're playing this completely straight. Laurence Olivier is fantastic as Lieberman, and he kind of does the opposite. He just made, I think, a few years before, he made Marathon Man, where he plays really just an amazing Nazi who tortures Dustin Hoffman in Marathon Man. He's like a ex-Nazi dentist. And if you haven't seen Marathon Man, actually I forgot to mention that on my list, but Dustin Hoffman, Laurence Olivier. Laurence Olivier is one of the scariest evil criminal Nazi types that's ever been put in the movies. And he tortures Dustin Hoffman in a dentist chair, and it's just, it's virtually unwatchable. And it's not even graphic. It's just that they're so great at doing it. But this is a fantastic film. I remember when I saw it, my head was just completely spun round a few times by watching it. Watching Gregory Peck as Joseph Mengele. And of course, Gregory Peck always played the good person, kind of the bringer of, yeah, exactly. Is it safe? It's perfectly outrageous. And Laurence Olivier was a person that back in the days in my 20s, when I thought of coming up with creative Halloween costumes, the character that he plays in Marathon Man made me consider shaving my head and putting on like a white shirt and wanting to be him in that movie, just walking around saying, is it safe? No, what I'm asking you is it safe? Do you understand me? It's just one of the great performances ever. But he's great in this as the hunter of Nazi war criminals that are trying to hide out. And it sort of bears a relation to The Night Porter too. Actually, that would be a great triple feature. If I owned a movie theater, I would definitely do Boys from Brazil, Marathon Man, and round it off with The Night Porter, maybe. I don't know. What do you think? Would you guys sit there for 3 hours watching that? And we could serve appropriate food to go with it, because there's great dining scenes in this film. And also, I think in Night Porter and in Marathon Man, maybe not so much, but we could figure something else out for it. So, yeah, Boys from Brazil, can't recommend it enough. Oh, and also, guess who does the score for it? Jerry Goldsmith. So this is another amazing Jerry Goldsmith score. And actually, the score is kind of hard to find for this. It's a little bit collectible, but when you see it in the movies, just the opening sequence is awesome, because Goldsmith's opening scores are just, opening title sequences are always just, they're the most amazing ones. So actually two more. We have two more. We're up to actually 1979, another film that I saw in a cinema, and that is The Brood. And so this is a Cronenberg film with the great Oliver Reed and Samantha Eggar, who I think recently just passed away. She lived to a ripe old age of 89 or 90 or something like that. But this was another jaw-dropping film. I miss the days of jaw-dropping films when you'd go and watch a film and you'd come out and you'd just go, what was that? In a good way. You'd just be, your brain would be bent by seeing things that I couldn't even understand how people would think of this stuff. And so Eraserhead, Jodorowsky, Cronenberg, the 70s were just packed with amazing people doing amazing things. Kubrick. If you're not familiar with The Brood, this is like borderline sci-fi stuff, but Oliver Reed was a made man behind the scenes of that movie. Yeah, Cronenberg classic. I mean, virtually all of Cronenberg's movies are classics. And Oliver Reed as an actor, I mean, I mentioned him before in The Devils by Ken Russell's superb performance. I think Oliver Reed is another one of those unsung actors who should have just had a basket full of Oscars, really, because I mean, he wasn't ever bad in a film, and I'm including him playing the werewolf in like the Hammer film. I mean, Oliver Reed was always just, whenever I saw him in films, I just felt like if I could be anybody, I'd want to be that guy. When I was watching him, of course. But yeah, I mean, just the depth of realization that he brought to his characters was really superb. Yes, oil of clove all around. That's a reference to the dental scene, I believe, in Marathon Man. But I'll just read the synopsis here for you guys who are not familiar with The Brood, for anybody stragglers who come in over the years for as long as this is up for. I don't know how long that'll be. A disturbed woman is receiving a radical form of psychotherapy at a remote, mysterious institute. Meanwhile, her 5-year-old daughter, under the care of her estranged husband, is being terrorized by a group of demonic beings. Well, I don't know if they're demonic. They're just indescribable little kind of dwarves that run around or something. But it's not digital. It's not pasted in. There's somebody real doing it, running around in a costume. How these two storylines connect is the shocking and grotesque secret of this bloody tale of monstrous parenthood from David Cronenberg, starring Oliver Reed and Samantha Eggar. With its combination of psychological and body horror, The Brood laid the groundwork for many of the director's films to come. Yeah, and I think Cronenberg is one of those he's probably the godfather of body horror films, of which there are a fair amount now. And Samantha Eggar was great. She was always kind of this sweet sort of storybook English lady, storybook English girl. She was in films like Dr. Dolittle and was eminently crushable. You know, I remember seeing that film when I was 11 or something, Dr. Dolittle, and just kind of going, wow, all she does is like ride around and sing songs and look really pretty, you know, so this is great. But The Brood is a fantastic film, and this was, watching that film in a cinema was something else. And Cronenberg's films, I think Rabid and The Brood was maybe his second film, I think. And then there was Scanners. I've seen all of his films in a movie theater. I've always made a point to go to the cinema to see his films. I've only missed a couple. And that includes all the way up to The Shrouds, which I just saw, I think, last year at the Austin Film Society over there. And if you haven't seen The Shrouds, and go and see The Shrouds, it's great. It's particularly poignant Cronenberg film because it's about a man who loses his wife and figures out a way to basically maintain her remains. And Cronenberg had actually just lost his wife when he started making the film, or just, you know, it was almost contemporaneous with him making the film. So it's a great watch, brings up a lot of questions. It's interesting, has its place in the Cronenberg canon. And I think he must be in his early 80s now. I hope he continues to make films. He's a great, important filmmaker, still raises questions with his filmmaking, and still has something to say in the medium of film. And he will always say something interesting. So that actually comes to the very end of the 1970s. I've probably left out, well, I know I've left out some of the more popular films of the 70s, The Sting, Star Wars, Jaws, things of that nature. And while I have, of course, seen those films just didn't really ring my bell in comparison to all the films I've previously spoken about. And I do have a tendency towards liking the darker things. Oh, actually, you know what? I have left out the very last one because I do not own this film also. And so, okay, that wasn't the end. This is actually the end, really. And the very last film, appropriately, that is one of my favorites from the 1970s, came out in 1979, and that film is Alien. And of course, directed by the great Ridley Scott, more or less Ridley Scott just getting started. I believe the previous film that he made was The Duelists to Alien, unless there's another one I'm leaving out. But Alien in 1979, saw it in a movie theater, saw it at the great Egyptian the Egyptian Theater on Hollywood Boulevard in Hollywood. Went to see it with my friend Lori Black. And that film was really something to see on a big screen in like 6-track Dolby sound, just dialed in perfectly, 70 millimeter. I have seen Dark Star. Yes, that's Carpenter's first movie, I believe, right? Dan O'Bannon, right? I think that's the same guy. Thanks for that. Yeah, so once again, outstanding credit, outstanding title sequence with music by Jerry Goldsmith, the Alien score, yet another one of his iconic movie scores, much imitated composer, and all through the 50s, 60s, and 70s, and 80s, and 90s, Goldsmith was making really great scores. He did like Basic Instinct and Total Recall, just, you know, really, really good stuff. So I probably don't really need to talk about Alien. I think Alien was a kind of a blockbuster movie, put Ridley Scott on the map, as I mentioned, put Sigourney Weaver on the map, Yaphet Kotto. It's got Ian Holm in it, great British actor. Also John Hurt. So this is stellar. Harry Dean Stanton. I mean, what a group of actors in that film. And then of course the effects are amazing. They're all done in camera, real stuff. Just fantastic design by H.R. Geiger. Just not, it's a flawless film. You don't get to see the alien until maybe 45 or 50 minutes into the film, and then it's a terrifying thing. Outstanding set design. This is another one of those films where if you can see a 70 millimeter projection of it, go see that. I think actually it was shot in 35, but it was a blow up. A lot of these 70 millimeter movies at that time were 35 blow ups, but they looked great because they were shot by really great people. And the production on them is outstanding. So Alien officially is my last movie of the 70s, and I think it's a great way to end the 70s. As I said, a lot of the popular ones are not in there, like Rocky and things like that, which I liked them okay. I mean, I just kind of went, eh. But I liked a lot of other left of center stuff, as is just my taste in general for films throughout all of film history, as you guys know who've been following me here. So in closing, remember to like, because that helps my algorithm a little bit here, and subscribe if you haven't subscribed. And if you haven't seen some of the other Film Club installments, they're all there. I think I've got the 20s, the 30s, the 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s was a big one with 8 parts. The 80s might be kind of big also, but I think the 70s was the biggest one. Also, I've got a Patreon page. You can go over there. You can hear brand new music that I'm doing. I'm also doing essays and needle drops of this stuff right here. I think I was just writing about a Beethoven string quartet just last week. You can also buy me a coffee. You can help support the channel directly. I've got all the links are going to be below. And also visit my Bandcamp page. You can get records, t-shirts, stuff that you can't get in a lot of other places. And I think that covers it. Thank you guys. It's been fun, and hope you guys have a great week. Not sure if there's going to be one next week, but if you are subscribed, you will see a notification about that when the next one is going to be. So thanks again. Have a great week. See you later.